Hello and welcome to Transform Tuesday. I'm Dave McCormick, VP of Product Management here at Alpha Software. I'm pleased to be joined by Sarah Mitchell, head of our documentation department and a Transform expert as well. Today we're going to go back into some real basic stuff. We are going to start right at the beginning, and the reason we're going to do this is because with the launch of the new dashboard features in Alpha Transform, we're really starting to relaunch the product as a complete all-in-one solution. So today is a day for beginners. Some of you folks who've joined us regularly might find a bit of this repetitive. I apologize for that. But we're going to just take you through what Transform is, what it can do, and how it works now as a complete system, including the dashboard. We are also here to answer questions, so you could absolutely type them into the questions box of the GoToWebinar control panel, and either me or Sarah will get to them. And let's get going. So let's start. If you're brand new to Transform, the purpose of Transform, in other words, what its huge benefit is you could think of it as a solution for workers in the field to do work more efficiently and workers in the back office to make better decisions in real time. So if you think about that, it's to help out two groups of people within the organization, people who are typically out in the field doing some sort of work. That could be inspections, that could be maintenance, that could be anything really, just people who aren't working at desks. And people who are in a back office who then need to take the data that's collected out in the field and do something useful with it. Now, when we talk about projects that people use Transform for, we talk about them in two different ways or two different categories. We talk about them in terms of digital transformation and greenfield projects. Now, digital transformation is a hot buzzword, and you've probably read about it in lots of different magazine articles and things like that. I'm looking at the Wikipedia definition of it, which I think is also way too long, but it refers to it as digital transformation as the adoption of digital technology to transform services or businesses through replacing non-digital or manual processes with digital processes, or replacing older digital technology with newer digital technology. What I'm going to call it is helping you update systems you already have in place. So digital transformation to me is taking something that's already there and just making it better. Sometimes it's just making it faster, but sometimes it's adding a bit of creativity to it as well. Let's see what else I've got here. Down here, I'm just looking at the first questions. I'll answer them as they come in. Any news on when the next version of Transform is coming out? That is coming out really soon. I'm hoping this week is actually what we're planning on, so you'll look for that. So the stuff that I'm going to show you today will be over on the beta site, but it should be live this week. So consider this an introduction. We're not going to be making big changes to the interface or anything like that at this point. Okay, now to the other type of project, the greenfield projects. Greenfield projects are basically projects that you start from scratch. Of course, there's also a Wikipedia definition for it. It's the information technology perspective. It's being set up from scratch is to start a greenfield situation. In other words, there's no services, practices, or anything behind it. We could do either way. And I'm going to give you an example of both. So let's take a look at a couple of real-world examples. The first example, I'm not going to name names of companies and stuff. This person's been on before, but it's for doing energy audits. So this is a company that's located in the American South, so in the United States. Their job is to go and take a look at new homes as they're being constructed and or as they're being finished, and take a look at how energy efficient they are. So this means taking a look at things like insulation thickness and placement, and window sizes and types of windows, and the efficiency of the equipment and things like that that go into a building, all so that can be used to perform an energy audit. That energy audit then helps the buyer understand how much they're going to be paying to heat or cool their home, and that actually helps inform sometimes how big a mortgage they can get on that house, which I think is really sort of interesting. So that's being used today. And so this was, I believe, a replacement of some additional systems. So in other words, people had clipboards and that they had in the past. And that is sort of the typical thing when you think about digital transformation. You think a lot about replacing paper with digital technology. So if you've got clipboards that typically get entered by someone in the field, they then take that clipboard back into the office and they'll enter it, or they'll have someone else enter it to Microsoft Excel, and then from there it goes onto some sort of system of record. Maybe that Excel sheet is that system of record. But it becomes more efficient when you can actually collect the data right in the field, even if there's no cell phone signal, and then be able to transmit that data back up into a server where it's all collected with the other data, and it can be used immediately by people in the back office. So the next example, and so the amount of work, well, before I go on with that, the amount of labor that can be solved that way is huge. So it may not have been this company, but others have told us that they're saving their workers about 1 day per week compared to having to do stuff on paper and then rekeying it and when they get back to the office. So this is probably one of the biggest reasons why Fortune 500s are throwing around this term digital transformation. Is it just saves them an awful lot of money. Here's another example, and this is on a different continent, all the way over in the UK. We have an example of someone who is using TransForm performing wellness checks. Back during the COVID lockdown, there were times that elderly people and people with certain medical conditions just simply could not leave their apartment, were advised to stay home. So that meant they couldn't go out and buy groceries or food. They couldn't get medications. Maybe they had stuff over at the cleaners or whatever. They were inside their homes. And basically service personnel were sent to assist them. And that was done using TransForms. They'd figure out, okay, what does this person need? And they would help coordinate who might be in the area to go and get the right services to the right people. And that was something that had a system that really hadn't been in place at all, but was able to get launched quite quickly using TransForm. So why is TransForm able to do all this cool stuff? What is TransForm? Well, TransForm is, is it a website? Is it a mobile app? Well, actually, it is both a website and a mobile app. They both work together to create one system. Now, the Alpha TransForm application, you'll find at the Google Play Store and at the Apple App Store. And this is the app so that field workers can do their jobs, so that they can collect data, they can take pictures, they can make annotations, they can even escalate issues right from their phone. And with the ability to do some more of the advanced type of programming stuff that you're allowed to do in TPL, you can do some really amazing stuff. Perform calls to web services or do advanced calculations, things like that. So that's the app side of it. Over on the website side of it, we have a website. We refer to it as TransForm Central, and you can get to it at transform.alphasoftware.com. You can also sign up for an account there if you don't have one. In TransForm Central, that's where you first of all design these forms that show up here. They're called TransForm forms. You design them in the designer portion of TransForm, but you are also here to review the data. So you can collect the data. It can be arranged into dashboards. It could be used as part of a workflow when data comes in to trigger other actions, like it could send emails or generate reports, or it could create new tickets based on how another ticket was filled out. And the entire system has got a great deal of headroom, thanks to the fact that it's got a powerful API, so programmers can build right into it. But it also has a built-in programming language, which is actually not that hard to master, even by people who aren't really programmers, that lets you do amazing stuff right here in the client application. So examples of this, for example, I know someone who used it so they could take a picture of numbers and letters on the side of a rail car and have that be sent off to an optical character recognition service and come back and make sure that it was keyed properly into the field. But you could do a million really cool things with that. So anyway, that is what it is, what it can do. And now we're going to go into the demo of it. And I'm just going to take you through, well, I'm actually going to take you through everything, but I can't go through everything in detail. So we're just going to take you through the big blocks here. So to begin with, we're going to go over to TransForm Central. That's where we're going to start. This is found at transform.alphasoftware.com. Today, I happen to be using the beta version of it, so my URL up here is different. And up here, you'll notice there are 5 tabs. There is a Home tab, which is used to fill in information about your account, what your name is, what your license key is, who's allowed to use your accounts. For developers, this is where you get your API key and things like that. You probably won't spend a lot of time here. Think of it as a settings screen. Where you may spend a little bit of time is over here on this Designer tab. This is where we create those forms that show up on the app that the workers see out in the field. Then we have these 2 other tabs here, Dashboard, Management Console. Both of them are meant to review and work with the data that has been collected by those workers. And then lastly, we have a Permissions tab. One I won't go into in very much detail, but it is very detailed. It allows you to assign very strict permissions to groups of people to allow them to see certain data, see certain forms, perform certain actions. You don't have to use the system at all if you don't want to, or you can use it in a simple way if you want. But really with the permission systems, even if you've got an enormous team with lots of different types of users of the system, you'll find that you're covered here in the permission system. So that's pretty much all I'm going to say about permissions right now. Let's pop over here into the Designer. So the Designer is where you create these forms that show up onto the TransForm application. And to do that, you just click plus right here, add a new form type. When you do that, you have a choice of adding a blank one or selecting from a template. If you choose a template, we've built a bunch of them, mostly around construction and manufacturing, a few in healthcare, and a few in other places as well. And one thing you should know about Alpha is that if you have a form that you would like us to turn into an application for a sort of a sample form for you, you don't want to do it yourself. We're often interested in taking on those jobs just to see, just to make sure that Alpha can do everything that we say it can. It's sort of an experiment we've been running lately. Anyway, just a small thing. So back here, if you wanted to create, choose a sample app, you could choose one here. We're just going to create one from scratch because I want to show off another cool feature, and that is the ability to use this, what we call Quickstart text. Quickstart text lets you build basically a form or an application just by typing in what you want to know. So let's imagine that we're doing an inspection report, and in that inspection report, we wanted to know the location of the equipment. For example, let's say it's an equipment inspection report, the type of equipment, the model, let's say the make, the model. We want to know, is it in working condition? And here, okay, and we want to maybe have a picture of it, a picture of the equipment. And maybe the person should sign for it. So let's put in a signature. So now, right now, I've created a form here with these, just with fields on it. These are all text type fields. What we're going to do is we're going to make them a little bit smarter. So is the equipment in working condition? We're just going to make that a yes, no field. So all I have to do here is click this magic wand back to my yes, no choice. And now that's just become a button, which is great. Picture of equipment, magic wand next to photo. And now that's become a photo field. Signature, magic wand next to the signature. Now that's become a signature field. I can now save it. Click to save changes. I didn't really give it a good name. I called it Form 1, but I could call it Transform Tuesday. Yeah, I'll give it another type. Okay, click save that, and now it's there. And I can now open this up on my phone and start filling out it, and it's as easy as that. So let's take a look at the application now that we've seen how to build a form and deploy it. Just going to see if I need to pop onto the same Wi-Fi network that my phone is on to do this. So just give me a moment. Grab Wi-Fi on. And that one should do it. looks like I'm connecting and connected. Great. Now that I'm connected, I'm going to use screen mirroring. And if all goes well, and it usually does. Oh, there it goes. Here's my phone. So let me open up the TransForm app. And I'm going to log out and log back in again. Yep, you can see my password. I know that. All right, logging into the phone. I'm going to choose my account. Actually, you can have access to multiple people's accounts. In this case, I've got an awful lot of accounts, but I'm going to use my Dave's Experiment account. That's the one I tend to use the most. And no, I'm not going to bother with on-device data, but that would have let me load all kinds of stuff, databases, manuals, videos, whatever. And we're going to add a blank form. I just want to show you what that's like. This form that we're going to use is going to be not the one I created, but we're going to use one called the Manufacturing 5S Audit form. It's one I've shown before. And this is one that is used typically in a manufacturing setting, and it's to take a look at the conditions to make sure that everything is safe and organized and efficient. And it follows basically these 5 S's, which is why it's called a 5S audit, from sort, straighten, shine, standardize, and sustain. So let's go ahead and I'll fill in some of these. And I'm going to say, just hit some buttons here. And I've done a demonstration of this form before, but this is one of the sample ones. So if you want to go take a look at it, you can. It's one of the form types. Just choose it as a sample. And straighten. I'm going to say this is good or bad. Okay. And I'll do a few more. Okay, and then when I'm done, I just submit the audit. Whoops, I forgot to sign it. Tap to sign. That's me. Submit audit. Oh, and I'm missing a date, so I'm going to say today's date. All right. And now that's been uploaded to the server, and I would be able to see it back here in my Alpha TransForm account. But anyway, what I'm going to do right now, though, let me just close out of that just to show you how easy it is to fill something in. Okay. I'm going to go back into here, and this time we're going to take a look. Now that, imagine we filled out a whole bunch of those 5S audit forms. I believe they're supposed to be filled out every day. So actually, I put in a year's worth of 5S audit forms before the webinar began, and we're going to take a look at them right now here in the dashboard. Okay, here in the dashboard, let me delete this tile so we're it says number of forms 365. This is my default dashboard. The only thing in it is just this one tile, but I can add a whole bunch of other tiles with graphs and with lists and with some other things as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another tile. I'm going to go ahead and say add a new tile. And this time, instead of just telling me the number of forms, I want to take a look at the list of forms. So let's just do, we'll start with one that was like it. So this is my sample. But instead of it being text, I think I just want it to be a list. And that's what that looks like. And now let's take a look at my titles, tile size. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm messing this up. I'm going to start this again. And I will say, for those of you using the beta today, there are a couple of issues here in the dashboard that I've noticed. But let's go ahead and create a new tile. And let's just do a date created bar chart. Here we go. That's an easy one. Save. And you'll notice, here we go. Here are the days things were created. There were 238 forms filled in on a Monday, 30 on a Tuesday, and so on. This may or may not be a useful metric to you. But what I'm noticing right here is that there should only be 365 forms. So when I create this, what I can do is I can actually edit the data. The reason that I'm looking at it like this is it's showing me information from all of the records that I've ever entered into TransForm, and some of them were not just the 5S audit ones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit this tile, and I'm going to filter it, and I'm going to say I'm only interested in forms that are equal to the 5S audit kind. Bang. All right. So I'm going to click save. And now you'll notice all of those happen to be entered on a Friday. Well, that's not very useful information because I happen to know I entered them all into the system on a Friday, but I want to know the date that they were all entered by the user on a Friday. So I can actually do that by going into here, editing this tile, and then changing the way that it is organized. So this is the graph. And we're going to say instead of, let me choose my form, but I'm going to say instead of doing it by the created date, let's just do it by the audit date. So that's down here in the list of fields. I think it's one of the last ones. There it is. Great. And I'm going to save that. And now it shows me ones that were created for each one of those dates. Let's go get a little bit fancier and only show me the ones where there were like bad scores for the 5S. So let's enter that. Let's take a look at sort order and I'm sorry, filtering. And I'm only interested in, so I'm going to add a new condition to the filter where and I'm going to choose my form again, where the form, form ID, there we go. Let's choose something in particular. How about one where a day where we had safety issues, for example? I know I've got that here in my data. Sustain, standardize, shine, set, sort, safety hazards. Here we go. Is equal to, let's take a look what my choices would be here. Many. So let's choose the one where many safety hazards exist. I can see from my preview that it's a little bit different. If you notice, if I mouse over that, that expands. And now here we go. There were 16 Wednesdays, but only 8 Tuesdays in which there were serious safety issues. Now, what's cool is this is automatically live, and if I click, say, on that Tuesday, it's going to show me the exact records that comprise that data. And we can do lots of other types of charts as well. We can do bar charts and line charts and graphs and scatter plots and all kinds of things. And you can arrange this however you like. So that is pretty much the start to finish of the what, why, and how of TransForm. I don't know if you have any questions. I know a lot of people here are advanced folks, so you probably don't have too many, but I'll give you a minute to type them in. Very good. And while I have Sarah here, Sarah, is there anything that you would like to add today? I don't hear you if you're trying to talk.
How about now?
Yes, now I can.
Okay. I didn't really have anything to add to what we covered today, but I did want to throw out there that if there's any TPL functions that people want us to cover, I know the last one we did in our TPL series was the GPS stuff, but as far as I know, we're done with that.
Pretty much all wrapped up on the TPL series. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm going to throw that out there. If anybody has any TPL questions, definitely send them in to us.
Great. Awesome. Hey, thanks everyone for showing up. I know for many of you, it was a review. Thanks for bearing with us. But I appreciate you joining us. If you do have questions, go ahead and send them to tfservice@alphasoftware.com. And until our next TransForm Tuesday, we look forward to seeing you. Take care and stay well. Bye-bye.